All right, welcome to Buddy Book Club. I'm Dylan, here with my partner in conspiratorial crime, Keith. What's up, buddy?
Chicken wing theory. The chicken wing theory.
Here at the Buddy Book Club, we're breaking down some bestsellers, and this week we'll be discussing a brand new thriller coming out on September 12th, The Deadly Deal by Jay Lee. It's his third novel. This one was a great one. This one was fun. So you obviously haven't read it, because considering that this is being dropped the day it comes out. So pause it here, rent to the bookstore, pick up a copy, read it, come back. We actually have an exclusive interview with the author, so if you just want to listen to the interview to get spiced up a little bit before you read the book, you should do that. So listen to the interview and then get the book. Either way, get the book. It was great. If you'd like to recommend a book for us to read or reach out to us about any past episodes, you can visit the website, buddybookclub.com, or slide into our DMs on Twitter or Instagram, Buddy Book Club Podcast. You can listen to us wherever you get your podcasts, so please download and subscribe. We're going to get straight into the interview, and we'll do our normal categories afterwards. So here's our conversation with Jay Lee. All right, guys, today we're speaking with Jay Lee, author of The Deadly Deal, which will be released on September 12th. If you don't want to wait, or if you love the book as much as we did and want to check out other books by Jay Lee, head over to your local bookstore and pick up copies of The Hubley Case and Silent Cardinal. Jay, glad you're here. Welcome to the program.
Hey, thank you so much for having me, guys. I'm honored to be here.
It's our pleasure. We got a couple of questions for you. We're going to keep it spoiler-free for the readers out there. So the book comes out on the 12th. It's available everywhere, right?
Yeah, we've got pre-order already set up through all the major distributors, local bookstores, indies, and all that sort of stuff. And it's on ebook platforms as well.
Love that. And as we understand it, you had a draft of The Deadly Deal stashed in the drawer. I think in the acknowledgement section, you said the proverbial drawer, which I appreciated, for 16 years. What made you come back to it as your third novel?
This has been such a reflective and, in a lot of ways, emotional process. At the risk of being long-winded, the full story is that I wrote this book way back when, a decade and a half ago, when I was working in an industry that's tangential to the pharmaceutical industry. And I really liked the idea and I liked the plot, and I had sort of drafted a first version and actually had secured a literary agent to help me get it published. And shortly after he and I signed together, about 2 weeks before he was going to start reaching out to publishers, he received a diagnosis of terminal cancer. And he called me up, and he's just the nicest man in the world. I mean, I only knew him for a couple of months, but here he was telling me that he was so passionate about the project, he really wanted to push it through. He said, I'm going to try to get this published for you essentially before I die. And I said, Jay, I can't tell you how much I appreciate your support, but look, you need to go be with some family. You need to stop working. This is way more important than getting some book published, man. And a couple of months later, he did pass away. And when that happened, poor me, right? When that happened, I got, frustrated, whatever. I kind of just shoved the book back in the drawer. And life, a lot of life happened between then, right? I met this girl, we got married, now we got kids. I got 2 other books that have been published. But throughout that entire time, I've always been intrigued by the story. I've always thought that the premise of the book was very captivating to me personally. And, decided to take it out. And the plan was, let's just make the changes, right? 16, 17 years go by, car models change, the internet's changed, all that sort of stuff. And the plan was, hey, you've already written this. It had an agent. I mean, it's pretty tight. Just make a few changes and be done. Yeah, a year later, I pretty much rewrote the entire thing. My wife ripped it to shreds. The title switched. The only thing that has stayed the same, basically, is the original plot, like the high-level story. But I got to tell you guys, seeing that book, make its way to formal publication on September 12th, it's been very emotional. It's made me think about my former agent. It's made me think about all the life that's happened between when I first remember writing it and today. And I'm an older dude now. The young people would look at me and say, you're an old guy. And back then I wouldn't have been an old guy. And And it's been very emotional because in a lot of ways, this feels like my writing baby.
Yeah, I mean, it really was. And I think we're both glad that it finally came to light because it's such a great book and has such a fun premise.
One thing we always talk about is pacing in books that kind of play out like movies in our heads. I think your book is a perfect example of it. How do you toe the line between keeping things action paced while also setting up twists, while also kind of developing these characters?
That's a really good question. And I'll answer it by saying, of course, every writer's different. And to a certain extent, I'm envious of the writers that can just sit down and free write their way through a fantastic story. I don't have that ability. I'm not that good. What I have to do is I have to pretty much map it out on paper in an outline first. So the outline helps me because what it does is it gives me a sense of where I might want to put a red herring, where a twist would be appropriate. If I know down the road that this guy needs to be revealed as a bad guy, what earlier chapters, what little things can I throw in there to kind of give a hint to the reader so that they could look back and say, I should have figured that out. This genre and a lot of similar genres, yeah, they focus on plot, but people fall in love with characters, not plot. So you got to give enough backstory, but how do you do it in a way that's not boring? I utilize the outline to say, okay, in the middle of these action scenes, let's help the readers understand who these people are a little bit more. Let's help them relate to these people a little bit more.
I feel like so many times with page turners, there's a lack of character development, but I felt like in this book, they were so fleshed out that they felt real, and especially because the premise felt so real. So wonderful job on that. And it's a great title. The Deadly Deal. It really sets the stakes. It's a title that if you saw on a bookshelf, it makes you want to pick it up, read the back cover, and purchase, of course, The Deadly Deal, available September 12th at the bookstore near you. How'd you come up with the title? Because there was a title change from the original.
Yeah, well, I really appreciate that. Thanks for saying that. The original title was actually called The Triangle Trade. And the reason why I had chosen that, not really necessarily thinking through geopolitical things and I liked the alliteration and I liked the premise that you had these three powerful entities, the United States government, a pharmaceutical company, and an insurance company that basically tell this story about how the three of them could conspire to serve their own interests. And each one of the three gets benefit from the other two. I just thought that was kind of a cool title. 16 years later, I'm sort of like, well, I'm a little bit older. I'm a little bit wiser. I'm a little bit more aware of, some of the negative connotations of that in general. And the title just didn't really jump out at me as having a sense of urgency, but I really liked the alliteration aspect. So I sort of just started brainstorming what are things that sound catchy and what's this book about? And, if you think about trade versus deal, they're somewhat synonyms. And then I just sort of tried to piece together to say, how do you express urgency? And landed on The Deadly Deal. I'm so much happier with that title than the original. But to your point, I think it's a strong title that conveys urgency and hopefully puts a little bit of intrigue out there for people who might be looking to give it a shot.
100%. And you managed to work it into the text, which is always appreciative.
That's a lot of fun. You noticed that? Wow,
Yeah,
you're into the details. I like that. Very cool. Very cool.
I like a good conspiracy theory. I know this is fiction, but this book felt completely grounded in reality. And I know you have a background in pharmaceutical industry. So how strict are they with the based on a true story, and what percentage of this is real or could be real? I don't want to turn you into another David here. I don't want to get you in trouble, but can you give us a little ballpark on how real this could be?
That's funny. So first and foremost, it is truly a work of fiction, right? It is not based on any specific example. It is not based on anything that's happened in the past. There have definitely been, obviously, instances in the past where there's been some pharmaceutical industry snafus. There have been things that you could look up, but it's not based on any of that. It is, however, from my vantage point, plausible because the idea that I got sort of originated when I learned how the FDA regulatory process worked. Yeah. The job I had was as an analyst for a company that made technology that served pharmacies. And one of the things that I had to understand was how does the pharmaceutical market work? How does the pipeline of a new drug work? How does the approval process work? What are some of the different branches of that process in general? And the more I learned about it, the more interested I became and the more maybe a little nervous I became because I noticed that, like, wow, if you know the right people and you've got the right ins on the various process, you could do some pretty scary stuff here. That's what the genesis of the book was all about, was this purely fictional yet seemingly realistic scenario where if you had enough people high enough at each of these individual entities that were selfish enough to do something like this, they just might actually get away with it. So can I give you a percentage on how likely it is? Not really, but can I tell you that that it certainly seems like there are some loopholes that could be exploited by the wrong person in the process? Yeah, there absolutely are. There absolutely are.
Once we turn the recording off, we'll get the real answer. We know what's going on here. Yeah, all right, okay.
Yeah, that's the dress down version. The white gloves will come off after this.
Yeah.
I read this book and watched the Hulu series Dope Sick back to back. And after that, my percentage is 100%. I don't trust the FDA at all anymore. So, but there are some big conspiratorial figures in the book. I mean, and who doesn't love a good conspiracy? I think we all do. Are there any conspiracies, Jay, that you believe in? Grassy knoll, government hiding UFOs in the desert, chemtrails, the chicken wing conspiracy, any of those or others?
Boy, what a good question. I gotta say, based on my intricate knowledge of movies and past reels, as well as the Seinfeld episode, I do find it incredibly hard to believe that Oswald did what he supposedly did back in 1963. When you look at the mechanics and the physics of what that magic bullet would have had to do, and you consider how good of a shot that would have to be, and that all these people heard things from this direction and that one, I guess if you put me on the spot deep down, which you have, by the way, thank you. I'd say that there's more to that story than a lone shooter from the book depository. How about you? I'm going to put it right back on you. You got any conspiracy?
I couldn't agree with you more on that one. I actually watched that Seinfeld episode last week, and that's why I was laughing as you were answering that question, because it's just such a phenomenal episode. I'm in on the grassy knoll. I'm in on the whole thing. Also the JFK movie. People haven't seen that, check it out. Phenomenal. Yeah. Government definitely is hiding UFOs. I'm with there. And Keith has probably put 30,000 words down about the chicken wing conspiracy, which he has that chickens are being secretly bred to have like 8 wings, I think his calculation came out to, based on the amount of chicken wings that are consumed. He doesn't know where the rest of the chickens are being eaten. So yeah, you can check out buddybookclub.com to catch those 30,000 words. Maybe after the release of the book, when you got some downtime. But,
yeah, that sounds like a plan.
Yeah.
It's nice to know you're a fellow Seinfeld fan as well. I'm here to tell you that I recently almost won a local Seinfeld trivia competition, and that about made my day.
That's phenomenal. Yeah, that's probably some in-depth questions there, because I've been getting lambasted by Keith over the past few months because I'm not a huge Seinfeld guy. I'm more of a Curb guy, and he is a massive Seinfeld guy, so I'm trying to do my part and watch them.
Well, given that interest, I'll just share with you. I'll just tell you the question that wound up making or breaking the competition was, what is the name of the subway stop that the characters tend to want to get off to grab the sandwich? Got to that level of specificity. Yeah. I certainly did not know the answer to that one. The team that won was a group of 20.
Jesus.
Oh, come on.
Get 20 people together and, your odds go way up. Meanwhile, it's just me and my wife, and she's just there for moral support. So I felt pretty good about the outcome of it, in all honesty.
Yeah. I mean, they should have just given you the award, because 20 seems like cheating.
And they were all into it, too. But yeah, that was the question that separated the men from the boys.
I like it.
Well, Jay, now that you're on your third novel, is there any part of the writing process or, the build up to the book being released that's stressful for you? Or, is it kind of, you've seen it before, you've done it before, no sweat?
That's a great question. And most certainly, yes, there are stressful parts of it. I will say that that this past week I've not been able to sleep very well. There's been a lot of excitement and just a lot of emotion. In particular, this book, I've been thinking about my former agent Jay a lot, and just sort of the bigger picture of life, because it's been such a large span of time. But the excitement and this sort of internal reward of seeing the book get published, I don't think that will ever get old for me. I will say the hardest part of the process is, without question, the detailed editing. I'm the guy that loves to write the first draft, loves to get the book sort of on paper, and then sort of gruels through the editing because it's a necessary evil.
Yeah.
And that tends to be a little bit stressful. It helps. I mean, my wife...
As you said, your wife helped a lot with that, which is great.
Yeah. She rips everything to shreds. I love her for it, but she's a very talented writer and a very, very voracious reader, and she's helped tremendously. But that's a stressful part, and just the busy week of it being coming up as soon as it is. There's definitely been some sleepless nights.
Hopefully afterwards, you get to relish in it and enjoy the sense of accomplishment, because it is indeed that. It is a great accomplishment. So, and there's a surprising, just to get back to the book here, there's a surprising amount of food references in the book, specifically fast food. I mean, I think we got Dunkin' Donuts, Taco Bell, Captain Crunch, McDonald's, of course. And it makes sense when you're on the lam. You don't really have time for fine dining. David's McDonald's order, though, 2 double cheeseburgers and extra fries, a phenomenal and economical order. I mean, that was, rewind 20 years or whatever in high school, that was my order. I could go in there for $3 and, get 2,000 calories. I need to know, though, did that come from your particular McDonald's order, or do you have a different McDonald's order?
No, that is not my particular order. That just seemed like if somebody was trying to fill up as quickly as possible and kind of get right to it without being seen, what would they do? I got to say my go-to, and I tend to be a burger and fries guy in general, but it's hard to go against the old 9-piece McNugget meal from McDonald's. That's probably my go-to. I don't get to eat there very often anymore because, like you said, back in high school, you could wolf down a couple of Whoppers or cheeseburgers from McDonald's, no big deal. A little bit more punishing these days, but so it's not often that I go there, but when I do, boy, it's hard for me to turn down a good chicken nugget deal.
Yeah, and quick follow-up, what kind of dips are we working with? Because McDonald's is known for having some pretty good dips.
You're going to want to shoot me through the screen here, but honestly, the only thing that I've ever found success with on the dipping front is ketchup.
You came to the right place. I'm a big ketchup guy. It's been hit several times over. I'm a Heinz guy through and through. I do enjoy some McDonald's fancy ketchup here and there, but yeah, the ketchup's totally fine. Go. Totally acceptable.
Hey, I tell you what, you talk about being out on the ledge there. I mean, that could have gone a completely different way.
So we pretend to kind of be movie producers here and, cast actors for books we read. I'm curious, did you imagine certain actors for these characters? Or was there any dream actors or actresses that you would love to star in an adaptation of your book?
Oh, wow. That's a really good question. I can't say that I've ever sat back and pictured a character of mine being played by person X, Y, or Z. I certainly love good action movie, and there have been plenty of actors who have portrayed a lot of different characters in the movies that I've really enjoyed. I personally think if you look at breadth of roles and just how wide a range, he's had, it's hard to argue with a guy like Tom Hanks, and I'm showing my age there a little bit, but
not at all.
I mean, to do everything from Forrest Gump to Philadelphia all the way back to Big, here's a guy who's got some versatility. But I think if you put me on the spot and said who would be a really fun character to play in one of your stories, it's kind of hard to go against, just for popularity's sake, to go against a guy like Leo, because you talk about versatility. I mean, he's been in everything from Titanic to that movie about the mobsters in Boston. What's that movie?
Departed.
Yeah. I mean, he is a badass. So I would think that he'd be kind of a fun person to see how he would take the role of David Centrelli and what he would do with it.
Yeah, Tom Hanks might be a little too old for the role, but I don't want to put anything past Tom. So if Tom, you or your agent are listening, it's an opportunity. Tom, hit the 24/7 fitness. Put some bulk on. Go for that Oscar role. It could be here with the Deadly Deal once it hits the big screen. So
And
you never want to bet against Tom, right?
Yeah.
And that was more of a hindsight comment that I made in general, but I'm with you.
And I would say if we're reversing time, referenced in the book, Mel Gibson, Lethal Weapon 3, it would be confusing if Mel Gibson's playing it and there's a Lethal Weapon 3 reference. But at the same time,
you're on it. You are on it, my man.
interesting pull of Lethal Weapon 3, I just have to say. Joe Pesci's introduced. We got Rene Russo in that one. Definitely not my number one Lethal Weapon movie, but if you were to hide some secret information, that would probably be a good DVD to do it in.
Well, I mean, that was just picked by what I happened to be watching at the time that the draft was written. I mean, but yeah, I'm with you. It's probably not the best Lethal Weapon movie. I got to go with the original on that one. But believe it or not, Joe Pesci, he came up in Lethal Weapon 2. He was the guy that they had to protect. The informant for the drug dude.
Yeah.
So he came back as such a different character in part 3 that you didn't even recognize him as one, right?
Yeah. And I'm glad you're going back to watch the Lethal Weapon. And honestly, if we're talking Lethal Weapon 3, it's not the best of Lethal Weapon movies, but in terms of overall movies, way up there. Love me some Lethal Weapon. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Well, we got a lot in common here. I like you guys. There's a lot of synergy, from our fast food to our Seinfeld to our movies. Rock and roll.
And we support the same football teams, right, Keith?
all right. Here we go. Cut it. We're cutting that. We're cutting that part.
Do you want to jump into some spoiler stuff?
Spoiler warning for listeners out there. If they haven't picked up the book yet, go get it. But my first one was the book itself is pretty cynical in terms of the leadership and government. Did you ever think the end that all the main characters might die or be killed? Because when Walter Buck dies, I was like, anything could happen right now. They might kill them, and these planes might blow up. I was kind of on the edge of my seat at the end there because I was like, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? Was there ever thought in your mind oh, everyone's going to die?
That is an incredibly insightful question, and I'm a little worried that you have my computer bugged because true story, in the very, very, very first draft, and this wound up getting changed, even before I got the agent, before Jay and I started working together. But in the very, very first draft, that final scene at the end where we're just watching the reporting of the outcome and she's in the ocean. It ends with a single bullet and him slumping over and blood staining the television.
Ooh,
and I don't know quite why I changed it. I mean, honestly, I don't recall specifically saying this ending doesn't work, I need to change it. It probably had something to do with wanting to have a somewhat less down ending, but I really can't remember. But absolutely. I mean, if you think about it, at the end of the day, the highest levels of government got away scot-free.
Yeah, exactly.
They're free and clear. The Medzig guys kind of took the fall for it, but basically the real perpetrators, the head honchos, they got away. And my argument at the time that I wrote it, I do remember thinking, there's absolutely no way that they would let this guy hang around. They would end this. And I actually had that in the draft, that the final scene was he was smiling because he was watching the video, and then all of a sudden, pop, and all that was left was blood on the TV. The end. So, I mean, like I said, I think he got me bugged here, but it would have to be bugged from 16 years ago. So maybe not. Maybe a coincidence.
Yeah, David goes down from the shot, and then Anne gets eaten by a shark in the ocean. Perfect ending. There we go.
Leave that up to the reader's imagination, right?
And it's interesting that you didn't include it because I still felt there was stuff going on afterwards that we don't even know about. Maybe his luck ran out down the line, but it does leave it kind of up to our imagination whether they are able to live happily on the beach. And also, we don't really even know necessarily where they are because she wanted to stay in the States. He didn't. They're on a beach. Could be in the States, could be in Hawaii. Who knows? Could be in Guam.
But it's also realistic because if you were that guy and there was an element of wanting to make him, sort of an everyday Joe, even at the end of it, you got the money, you're sitting on the beach, whatever, there wouldn't be a day that goes by that you wouldn't look over your shoulder. It probably even comes across in the final book as even a little happier than I even meant it to, because a part of the reality is the main bad guy, the main antagonist got away, and he's still out there and he's in a position of authority. And I don't think that you would ever totally rest easy if you were David. I mean, that's a part of the price that you would pay for your part in this whole crazy week. But I love the idea that it's not like so nice and neat and everything falls into one box. There would be angst and you would wonder. And it's kind of fun to hear you think that when you read it, you had that vibe too. That's really cool to hear. Thanks for sharing that.
This is more of a comedic one, but it's all right. I need to know this. Doug, by all accounts, he's a pretty terrible person. Not likable, not very bright, an alcoholic. What kind of game was he spitting in order to get David's fiance, Tiffany? How did he get her to cheat with him? Like, I just need to know. I need to know what kind of game he was spitting.
Yeah, like David seems like the full package, and Doug's like no package. He's that torn up Amazon box you get, and so what was he doing with Tiffany there?
My guess would be that if you guys think long and hard about your own personal network, there's some relationship somewhere that doesn't make a hill of beans worth of sense, right? What in the hell is like, wait, how could that possibly be the case? Call it Florence Nightingale syndrome. If there's an injury in a hospital, call it this, call it that. There's reasons that ugly folks like me and jerks like Doug wind up having success with pretty and intelligent women. And unfortunately, it's a part of life. And on the serious side, that was one of the things about David really kind of deliberately put in there. He starts out on the cynical side, untrusting, kind of jaded by what happened, and understandably so, right? Like, if that had happened to me, I would be reluctant to jump into a trusting relationship as well. But he's kind of forced throughout the book. He's kind of forced to put that aside and decide, am I going to continue to harbor this anger and this frustration and let it limit my tomorrow? Or am I going to say, man, that really sucked. That never should have happened. I got a really raw deal, but I'm not going to let it affect the rest of my life. I think that's a very real thing that a lot of people on some level have to kind of come to terms with in their own life.
Yeah, for sure. I'm not sure I would have given him the 30 million, but I agree with the rest of it.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, I'll get, like the other question, I'll give you the true story once we hang up. You'll hear about that surprise ending where the bad guys get certain people. Well, maybe he doesn't get David. ...
Yeah. I like it.
Well, Jay, it was really great talking to you. I mean, we're super excited for the book to be released. We had a great time reading it. And as a reminder to all readers out there, it's available September 12th at a bookstore or ebook retailer, wherever you want to go. Definitely check it out. It's a little late for beach season, but I live in Cape Cod, and the beach weather continues through the next month or so. This would be a phenomenal beach read. So for those people out there or who want to enjoy the crisp fall air and have a nice thriller by their side, this is the one.
Hey, Dylan, Keith, thank you so much. Really appreciate you guys taking the time to have me. It was a lot of fun to catch up with you guys, have a conversation, and I wish you guys the best. I got nothing but respect for the Buddy Book Club.
All right, that was Jay. Thanks for joining us. That was a lot of fun. Honestly, we had a really good time with that interview. We've had a couple of those, and to be honest, that was the best one. I don't usually like to pick favorites, but I'm picking them mostly because of the Duke Clemson stuff, which I think we talked about off the air.
That didn't start the interview off well, right? But Clemson just lost to Duke in a terrible college football game, and I'm a Clemson grad, and he's a Duke grad, so there was a little bit of animosity to start, a little rivalry there.
Yeah, I liked it. All right, Keith, let's jump into the categories for the Deadly Deal. Stock up, stock down, stock up. What do you got?
Stock up. Expensive suits and bourbon?
Go on.
I mean, there's already big stock up. You know me, kid. You know me.
Power
suits, power tie, power steering. You already know me, kid.
I knew when the book said that the guy had a power suit on, that you were going to be on it already.
Oh, I had to. Because a lot of the characters, a lot of how they were described was immediately by either their suit, like this guy was wearing a $3,000 tailored suit or whatnot, or what kind of drink they were drinking. Like it was some sort of bourbon, which I honestly think is all I need. Oh, this person was drinking a Busch Light. You think of, me at a tailgate, me having a good time. If someone's wearing like a $2,000 Armani suit, you think of D-Man at a wine and cheese conference, so you understand the character right away, like someone that's down to earth, normal, like me, or D-Man who's, wearing his expensive suits, drinking his expensive drinks. But you can tell that character just by those two things. I really thought that was kind of interesting how he included those, and that kind of like really made the characters right away.
Yeah, it's probably an easy way to just level up is to start drinking brown liquor and buy a nice suit. Unfortunately, I do not drink brown liquor. I'm a clear liquor guy. And
tequila, vodka?
Yeah, both of those work for me.
Okay.
There are some brown tequilas I'll enjoy, Reposado or an Añejo.
Heroin, naturally.
But yeah, Jay even said he spent some time in Boston and enjoyed a Cape Codder, which is a delicious cranberry vodka.
That's a pink liquor, no?
Well, the vodka's clear, and then the mixture comes in. Yeah, I'm more of a gym shorts and vodka guy, so which makes me sound like Duck, really. Just, melting into my lazy boy. Maybe I'll just level up next time. My first stock up is yearbooks, high school yearbooks specifically. It turns out, based on this book, that they actually do serve a purpose besides being a $150 doorstop, which is right. When you went to high school, were people signing your yearbook?
I can't even remember, honestly. When he was like, oh, it hasn't been cracked open at all, and I'm like, mine would literally look brand new. It might be still completely brand new right now because I don't remember even opening it.
Yeah, I remember like middle school yearbooks.
Those are important.
Yeah, it being a big thing to write hags in, very important. But high school, you kind of get right as you're about to graduate. I don't remember anyone signing it, but it's a great vehicle that moves the story along. What I liked about it in The Deadly Deal was that it was like the starting point clue, but it did nothing but provide more questions. Obviously they worked through it and got a little bit, but in general, it was just more questions. It had a little bit of like National Treasure or like one of those Dan Brown books to it.
I remember writing a note like, oh, it's kind of Da Vinci Code-esque right now when I first got it. So yeah, for sure.
Except instead of some like weird Leonardo da Vinci cryptograph thing, it's just a yearbook. We can all associate with that.
Yeah,
I know what a yearbook is.
A little bit more down to earth.
It's written for the layman like us, which we appreciate.
Yeah, exactly.
What else do you have for stock up?
Slacking off at work, stock up. Not that I would ever do this. Not me. But David is obviously like a hard worker. He's kind of like built his way up. He's like 11-year run. What did working hard do for him in rising to top? Is unknowingly about to get killed. Like right when the book is introduced to him, he's like has to go in front of all these big board people. And he's basically about to get killed, and he has no idea why. Basically, the only reason is because he knows like a friend of a friend, right? It's like
he's like a patsy, It's like this is going to eventually be like the scapegoat for this thing or something potentially. Who knows?
And also, he's only making $200K, and I mean, like $200K is a great salary, obviously. $200K to get killed, we gotta be seven figures. You can't even buy a house for under $1 million in California. So I mean, what are we even doing here?
And also, $200K to be in charge of business development for the biggest pharmaceutical drug that is going to hit this country in its history. Like you said, it's got to be better. Seven figures. Like what's the big deal here? Yeah, maybe he's just not negotiating.
If you tell me here's 7 figures, there's a 50% chance you get killed in a conspiracy, I'm okay with that. Yep, fine, sign me up. But $200K, bro, like come on, figure it out. Moral stories, don't work hard.
My next stock up, fast food. I mean, we talked about this a little bit in the interview, but, particularly McDonald's, it's great comfort food. It's good for the price. We all know here at the Buddy Book Club that I love me some McDonald's. I don't get to eat it enough as I would like. I'm more of a health conscious person, unfortunately, these days. But it's my favorite part about going on a road trip is I just get to stop at McDonald's 3 times and get whatever I want. I'm more of a McDouble guy as opposed to the double cheeseburger. I don't think you need that.
I agree.
You don't need that extra slice of cheese, especially because you're going to get a couple of them. Jay Lee said he was a fan of the nuggets. That's obviously part of my order. You get a couple McDoubles.
You get that additionally. You get the burgers and then you're like, oh, I'll get like an appetizer.
Yeah, exactly. The nuggets are the fries are kind of the appetizer. The nuggets, the dessert. And if you're really lucky and that ice cream machine's working, you get an ice cream there. Yeah, really just reading this whole book, there's a lot of references to fast food and whatnot in here. Just, popular culture in general, and it got my tummy grumbling, and I think I might have to get some McDonald's after this. I had one more, and it kind of ties in with the Seinfeld / Curb stuff we were discussing, and it's anonymous donations. Stock up. I know there's an entire Curb episode about this, so I don't want to just repeat what was said there. But our boy David pays for a random boy's surgery to save his life, but then makes the family swear not to tell anyone. Oh, like that's actually going to happen. This poor family, all of a sudden their son gets...
You didn't like that? I like that.
No, I did. I did like
okay.
it. I'm saying that this is genius, this anonymous donation. I mean, it happened in Curb with Ted Danson. He was like, I'm anonymous. And everyone's like, oh, did you hear Ted Danson's anonymous? And then it's like, it's not anonymous anymore. He's Ted Danson. But on top of that, David takes the entire Big Brother, Little Brother group out to a Yankees game and then denies it to his coworkers, which just keeps the scuttlebutt going. You know, everyone's talking like, oh, did you hear David did that? And then he just pretended like he didn't. He's such a great guy. It's smart. It's like getting 2 for 1.
That could backfire. It's like, hey, David, I saw you out with a bunch of kids the other day at a game. Were you volunteering? No, I wasn't. What were you doing with them? Nothing. I wasn't doing anything with them.
That's true.
What?
Interesting. Yeah, that's a very interesting point. It's like, well, I definitely saw you at a Yankees game with 20 children. So something was going on there. And then my last talk up is the Lethal Weapon series. We already discussed it in the interview, but it's phenomenal. That's an easy one. Stock down. What do you got?
Talking back to Hitman? Hitman?
Yeah, Hitman.
Hitmen. It's plural.
Yes.
Like multiple hitmen's. It seemed like a lot of back and forth between the power players in like the government and in the corporation and like the people like Marcus who will murder you in your sleep like, instantly. Once he said one time to me, "Hey, listen, I'm gonna run it. You shut your mouth." I'd be like, "Yes, sir. You're right. No, you're right." You know, and I wouldn't want to know the gritty details. I'd just be like, "Get it done. Let me know what happens." I'm not gonna be questioning the guy who's like can murder you in your sleep about how he does things.
It's like asking Bill Gates about how Microsoft worked. You know, he'd be like, "Shut up! Why would you ask me that?" You know?
Yeah, all right, I guess. Yeah, okay.
Like, how does your new operating system function? He's like, "It doesn't matter. Like, doesn't matter to you. You're an idiot. Like, I'm gonna take care of it."
For sure. Yeah, I get you there.
My first talk down: brotherly love. It's important to be close with your family members, not too close. It's important to be close, especially you got some brothers. It's nice to be close with them because, you know, when you're growing up, you know, you emulate them, especially they're your big brothers. It makes a lot of sense. But this book made me realize that there's a non-zero chance they will hook up with your fiance. So maybe it's not that cool to have brothers. Thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, I'll get into this my next stock down, but he's no longer a brother after he does that, right?
No. In the words of many people, he's dead to me.
Yeah, right.
You don't pick your nose, you don't pick your friend's nose, and you definitely don't fuck your brother's fiance.
That's the saying I was thinking of. Perfect. Yeah, there you go. All right, perfect.
I mean, what's your stock down? Because I want to talk about like why Tiffany boned Doug. And we did talk about this with Jay Lee, and he said, you know, these things can happen in life. Just like I said, there's a non-zero chance. And it was, you know, I think it was more about David allowing himself to forgive his brother and move on. Yeah. And then also like how it affected his life so much down the line, which obviously, like, you walk in on your brother hooking up with your fiance. But I don't feel like we got a great answer as to like what kind of pheromones Doug was throwing out there that got Tiffany at like a Christmas gathering. She never met this guy before. He's disgusting, honestly. He's a gross slob who's
she's a
definitely
Cornell
wasted.
Grad, doing okay for herself.
So are we thinking tripod?
That's what I thought he was inferring right away. I honestly thought that. I was like, oh, he's got a big old elephant hog on him, huh? One of those. I'm like, all right, say less, you know?
Yeah. Okay. What did you have for stock down?
It's a Christian Grey from The Ways Down. Stock down bargaining chips. Kidnapping his shitty brother and his ex-fiance. Talk about having zero leverage, huh? Like, just complete shitty people. It reminded me of the Austin Powers scene where Austin Powers takes Scott hostage, and he's like, seems like the tables have turned. And he's like, not really. Kill the bastard. We'll see if I care.
Dad, but we had a break through a group. I had the whole group vaporized.
I'm like, so yeah, just kill him. I'm like, I don't care about them. That's what I thought he was going to say immediately. I guess he's the hero, so we can't, but if that was me, I'm like, okay, good.
Yeah.
I haven't talked to the dude in like 6 years. I don't care about him.
It's like, no. Give me the gun. I'll shoot.
Oh, thanks for getting him from me. Appreciate that.
Yeah. On top of that, which was also kind of interesting, have you seen Red Dragon, the like second Silence of the Lambs movie?
No.
He basically shows them like a slideshow of like all the terrible things he's done. But for some reason, to really hammer this home to David, they just show him a bunch of pictures of Doug. Like, here's Doug with electric cords taped to his nuts. Here's Doug with all these surgical implements. It's like, no, I got it. Like, I understand. You have him kidnapped, and you're going to
It's like, which one do you want me? You want me to pick out which tool you want me to use on him? Yeah, okay, yeah. Let's go hammer first, I think, and then...
Yeah, I'm just picturing them also, like, setting up the photo shoot, being like, oh, okay, let's get Doug over here in this corner and duct tape him to a chair. Okay, now let's get Doug over here. The light's a little better, and I'm going to put some surgical implements down. It's like, no, I understood it after the first one. I know what you guys were thinking you were going to do. I really didn't need all the photo evidence, but I guess it worked because... David fell for it, at least to some degree.
Well, it's like the, what's the Stanford experiment? One of those experiments? You don't
The Stanford prison experiment?
Yeah, if you're just hearing someone like scream or something, you're like, keep pressing the button. But if you're seeing it, you're much more likely to not hurt the person.
I don't know if that's what the
I just might have combined like 6 different studies. But that's neither here nor there.
I think that was what it was. But maybe. We'll have to do some...
You know what I'm talking about, right? There's like the thing where they keep press the button.
I do.
They test it one where you only can hear it, and they test it again where you can see the person, and he's like acting like he's like getting really in pain, and they stop when they see them. But if they hear it, they're just like, all right, like keep typing it.
Interesting. Checks out. I believe it. Humans are weird. My next talk down, expert military training. What good is it? Honestly, like, what good is expert military training if you can't kill a mid-level pencil pusher with a 24/7 gym membership? Maybe it should be stock up to 24/7 gym memberships. Either way, we're going with stock down expert military training. Our boy Marcus, not a good look by him. He's a CIA op that does all the wet work. He's one of those guys that can just do anything. You put him alone somewhere. He's a force multiplier. He acts as 20 men, but he's one guy. He's got no situational awareness. He's in the boat storage place, and he's asking where the heck Anne is. Well, at the same time, she's uncovering a tarp and picking up a boat anchor, which has a chain on it. You'd think you'd hear something. Nope, nothing at all. Gets brained by the anchor. Doesn't die right there. So I guess stock up to him for being a little stronger than, the normal man. But then he's firing shots into this car, can't hit either of them, and just decides to stand right in front of it. Another Austin Powers thing. It's like the guy in front of the steamroller saying, no! It was like, come on, Marcus, like, be better. And then that's not even the only one, though. You got the guys in the gym, the hitmen in the gym at the end. During this time, David's whole plan is, okay, wait for the alarm to go off and then... I'll pull a gun out, this whole thing. One of the trained killers, this is a guy who has presumably been in war zones, or at least heard a loud noise before. He actually covers his ears when the hourly alarm goes off. Covers his ears while he's in a Mexican standoff because of a moderately loud noise. It's like, oh my God, this guy's got to do better. In military training, don't they just bombs going off left and right and you still got to keep your cool under fire?
Yeah.
So not a good look for the experts.
Well, they also did the same thing in The Gray Man, where you have two people, you know where they are, they don't know where you are, and instead of just waiting for them to walk out and shooting them, they rush into the place. I'm like, this is day one stuff. There's no reason to attack a target if there's nothing in there that you need. You just wait till they walk out with the stuff, you kill them. Yeah,
they have no idea you're there. Stake out their car, which they're going to go back to because they have to leave.
Yeah.
And when they come out, you shoot them. There you go. We're done.
Yeah. Marcus was, he needed to figure it out.
He was getting lax. Our boy's getting lax.
I mean, he was way too concerned about people questioning his authority rather than just doing a good job. These people probably should be questioning what you're doing because you're sucking at it.
Yeah, that's a great point. He was too concerned about the peripherals than actually doing his job. He would not be good on a Bill Belichick-led team.
No,
sure.
Do your job, yeah.
My last one, engagement stories. I'm jazzed for Mary and Jake. Well, not that they got burned alive in a fire. But I'm jazzed about, how deeply in love they are. That's great. I appreciate that. I really do. But Mary retelling their engagement story every time she sees David, that's a bit much. You walk in, hey, haven't seen you in a while. She's like, have I told you about the engagement story? It's like, yeah, you have. And on top of that, it's not a good story. It's not unique. It's not that interesting. They had a romantic dinner on his parents' boat, and he told her to get a flashlight, but instead she found a ring. Whoop-de-frickin' do. Like, someone telling me that story over and over again. And that's one of those things, like, as time passes, each of them are kind of forgetting and they play it off each other. So she's like, so yeah, we had wine, and he's like, no, it was champagne. She's like, oh right, yes, it was champagne. It's like, oh my god, the story is still
David's
going
also
on.
like, oh yeah, when you found the ring, they're like, no, we'll tell it. And it's like, oh god damn
yeah,
it.
it's like, yo, it's like, I didn't know it was the ring at first. He told me to get a flashlight. It's like, yeah, I understand. He didn't say go get the ring from under
I've heard
the
this
dash.
6 times now.
Yeah.
Like, god damn it.
Yeah. And also the story leads off with Jake being concerned his parents wouldn't let him take their boat out. I mean, he's saying, I'm going to propose to this woman. Can I use the boat? And he's thinking they might not let him. To me, that just says that his parents must not have been huge fans of Mary.
Well, maybe his parents were like stepbrothers' parents. They're like, you can't touch the boat. Like, that's his whole life, maybe.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sure. It's like, but his dad not only let him take the boat out, he cleaned it for him. It's like, wow, what a fucking saint. Has he ever tried to take 30 kids to a Yankees game and pretend like he didn't?
Yeah, right?
Yeah, what the fuck? So, engagement stories, it's nice. Just say you got engaged. I don't need to hear the whole thing. I can put the pieces together. I get it. I'm sure it was something special. We actually had a guy at work who did this. He basically proposed on a ski mountain and set up his phone to like do the whole thing. And it's like at the lodge of a ski mountain. It was like a 15-minute video, and he had like 20 people around his desk watching it on his phone. I was like, this video is going to be 15 minutes long. Like, what the fuck are we doing here? Why is everyone here and pretending like this is amazing?
That's a psychopath move. That's straight psychopath.
Guess what? He got down on one knee and gave her a ring, and she said yes. Oh, wow. Spoiler alert. Yeah, I get it. I'm good.
Yeah, I don't ever want to see myself doing anything ever unless it's something that's funny or athletic. Other than that, I don't want to ever see it. You know?
Exactly.
I don't even want to see anything funny either. Actually, scratch that. Athletic is the only thing that I would watch.
Sure.
And only if it's good. I'm not watching anything bad, which is very hard to find on film. So
well, I got a couple of them when we went to Dallas, the stadium.
That's what I was thinking of, like a slow motion catch in the end zone. Something like that. That's cool.
Yeah.
I was thinking of we went to the national championship, and there was a skills competition. And there was all like 6 and 7 year olds lining up, and I'm like 8 beers deep, and me and my buddy are like stretching and stuff, getting ready because we're timing and filming it to see who's better.
I love it.
Yeah, you got to do that type of stuff.
Who won?
Oh, I did. Well, it was in question because his ball was a bad throw, quote unquote. They didn't let us throw the balls to the people, which is kind of bullshit. I had to lay out and made a catch, and that's just being an athlete. That's all. So obviously I send the video once every year. I send it to them, just to make sure he knows that he dropped and I didn't. So yeah, that's key.
You gotta check your homies. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right. Of course.
You gotta make sure they're humbled. Stay humble. Did you have a favorite scene in this one? I mean, I'm thinking for me, it's probably not like scene necessarily, but the whole story getting leaked. Once he gets the reporter, I can't remember what his name was, the guy that died, R.I.P.
Walter Buck.
Yeah, Walter Buck. Once David's plan becomes clear, like what he was, because they kept saying like he had this plan. I'm like, okay, what's the plan? Because time's running out. And once that news cycle starts going, I was like, oh, I get it. Like, and that makes a lot of sense. So I kind of liked how those pieces came together. That was good for me.
He also mentioned The Departed, and that's my favorite movie. I mean, it's if you grew up outside of Boston, it's required viewing. You have to basically watch The Departed. The reason it's my favorite movie is because it's just like immediate deaths and like people you don't think are gonna die are dying, right? The main character's dying, things like that. And so that's why I kind of asked him too if he ever thought about just making it the ending, spoilers, having the main characters die. But the fact that anyone was disposable, anyone could die, I love that aspect. It's not just like, well, these people were nice, so they're not going to die, or anyone could have died at any point. That's like kind of what overall created that tenseness, where like, well, the main character could die. Like you don't know, like.
I think our boy Jay Lee there, I think he broke some new info on this book when when you asked him about the ending.
Yeah.
At least from my understanding, he hadn't said before about this alternate ending, if you will. And when I was growing up back in the when you had to have the DVD age and there was the alternate endings, I used to love that stuff. We got our own taste on the alternate ending for The Deadly Deal. Do you have a character you like? Character you love?
Favorite is Doug, obviously. He carries around a big old elephant hog. That's one. But two, he was just a punching bag. It was funny. He'd ask a question and they'd be like, "Shut the fuck up, Doug." Like, just shut up, you fucking idiot. And I was like, yes. I like that. I loved it every time.
Yeah, it was great.
He was asking stupid questions, though. Like, shut up. Like, I wish he'd die. I'm like, come on, Doug, shut up,
Yeah. No, the fact that Doug gets off scot-free, he spent like 2 days with some terrorists and like couldn't drink for 2 days. So yeah, maybe he had the shakes, but besides that, the shakes are worth the $30
Also,
million.
you give $10 million to a guy like Doug, he's dead in, a week?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Maybe he knew he was going to kill him. He's like, all right, whatever.
Yeah, that's like a guilt-free way of doing it. Let's jump into some love-hate. What'd you love, Keith?
The pace, the action. It was good to just get back into a thriller, a summer read, like you mentioned. I read this by a pool and physically read it. I usually listen to audiobooks, and it was just easy to pick up, jump in the pool, come back out, pick it back up. It's one of those books that's perfect. It's not one you have to like reread something, being like, what just happened? Yeah. I love those type of books.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And that's it for me. I mean, short chapters, love that.
Yeah.
It's definitely, short chapters I feel like are somewhat recognizable in the thriller genre. But even the thrillers we've read, I feel like we've done a lot more audiobooks of them, and it's less recognizable in audiobook format because you're just kind of like listening through. Whereas for this, you read it at a pool. I read it at like a mixture of like going to the beach or like on my back porch with the pup and a cocktail, which is a great way to enjoy a book, catching some rays. But it'd be like if I had to go inside and do something, I'd be like, no problem. This chapter's done in 2 pages. I'll go inside, I'll do that, come back, pick up right where I left off. So, the pace was really great as well. Not a ton, I feel like, necessarily happens in the first half of the book, but it felt fast. I mean, obviously stuff's going on, but it's not the action-packed first half of a book that you sometimes get, but it's still, the pace of it was so well written that it felt fast. And here at the BBC, we may talk about a lot of books, but we don't do a lot of reading. We do quote unquote reading, and reading this was just a breeze. The pages were flying by. It wasn't boring at any time. It kept moving. New information kept getting released, yearbook photos and whatnot.
Some books too, I think there's like every single chapter or a couple chapters has to have some sort of action set, right? Where this, you mentioned it, like it wasn't like the beginning. The first half almost didn't have a ton of like guns were pulled out and things like that.
Yeah.
But it was setting up stuff, and stuff around him was occurring. So it felt like there was action going on, but it wasn't just like, and then this guy shot me, and then this, it's not like car chase scenes every single chapter, which I liked too, which is like, it feels like it's action, but it's not action, right?
Yeah, he didn't like fall back on just like, oh, I have to stuff some action in here because this is a thriller. It was like, no, let's let it build. What they get away from movies these days, there's no Jaws anymore. There's no waiting 45 minutes to see the shark. It's shark off the bat. So I did appreciate how he took his time letting it develop on its own. Did you have other loves?
Conspiracies, we already mentioned it.
Yeah.
I've already been very negative multiple times with this pod towards pharmaceuticals, government, media, and he just crushes all of them here. So I love that, obviously. And then Provisio? Every time I read that was a Harry Potter spell, right, to you? I was like, Provisio! Every time I saw it. I don't know what that means, but I loved it.
Harry Potter spells for sure stock up. Let's get into the hates. And we don't... Jay, our boy. We love the book. We ain't hating on it. But hey, it's part of the podcast. You know what I mean? It's what we got to do. We got to do what we got to do. You got a job, we got a job. What'd you hate?
Marcus sticking out. I mean, just based off Mitch Rapp, you got to be able to blend in with the world, my guy, right? Like, you can't be 6'6", and every single person sees you and says, like, holy shit, that's the most intimidating person I've ever met kind of guy. You can't be like, wait, is that Kevin Durant down the road? Is that Tyshawn Prince? Oh, no, that's Marcus, the dude that's coming here to kill me. Like, get shorter.
Or fake smile. Just throw on a fake smile so that people Because you can't just be this angry man walking around all the time. People see that and they're like, this guy's super intimidating.
He was smiling when he was thinking like torture and stuff, which I kind of liked.
Yeah,
I was like, all right,
respect that.
Marcus, all right, I don't hate that, but you got to get shorter. You can't be that tall, bud.
Honestly, I'm going to be honest here because that's what we do. We're honest. It wasn't a really good conspiracy. You know, conspiracies need a few people involved, which this one technically had. If you're going to have to step outside or keep people in line, whatever the case is, you need to be able to cover your tracks. The conspirators just didn't do a lot to cover their tracks, or rather, they left elephant-sized tracks. They kill the guy who's in charge of insuring Provisio. Okay. You know, sometimes collateral damage shit has to happen. But then afterwards, you know, I'm even going to leave out the Jake stuff. But then afterwards, they forced the medical lead on Provisio to kill himself. Okay, that's two. Not great. Then they set the head of business development for Provisio's house on fire. These are all things that are going to tie back to this one drug. If anyone's looking at this with any sort of keen eye.
The thing is, like, the insurance company insures a ton of different...
They used this insurance company just for Provisio.
No, but they did just Provisio, that pharmaceutical. And
for Medzec.
Then they had 10 other pharmaceutical companies that they insured also that had one drug. So it wasn't, they were saying like they just didn't do all their portfolio. I feel like there's a way to not necessarily tie it back, but yeah, go on.
No, that was pretty much it. If you want to stomp all over my point, that's totally fine. But
when you see it on paper and you say, these guys all worked on these things, then you're like, oh yeah, okay, I get that. But if a guy works on 10 things and the other guy works on 10 things, that's 10 factorial or whatever the fuck that is, you know what I mean? Like, that's 100 different possibilities, right?
That's not what factorial means.
10 times 9 times 8 times 7, what is that?
That's factorial.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you have to connect the dots a lot more, you know?
Yeah. It seemed like some dots that were easy enough to connect. I don't think you're going to tie it back to the President of the United States.
No.
But I think you could say there's some shady things going on. What else, Jake?
I didn't understand how everyone knew his history. People would be like, oh, and then...
11 years ago.
Is he telling everyone? If you break up with someone and move to another state, they're not like... Unless you're telling everyone, how would they ever know that happened to you? You know what I mean?
We already know that David's really good at saying nothing happened and then everyone finding out. So that's one factor. Additionally, David is quite the coxman in this, you know. He gets around with all these beautiful women. He's known for that. How do you think he gets all these women? How easy do you think a woman would lay you if you just said, yeah, I haven't been in a relationship for a while because my fiance cheated on me with my brother over Christmas break? Yeah, I'm sorry. If someone said that to me, I'd be like, okay, like, we can have sex.
Can I talk to Doug?
Terrible.
Like, what's his deal?
Yeah. They're like, really? What's your brother's name?
Yeah. That's a good point, though. I like that.
Thanks. Yeah. Actually, Jay told me that.
Jay listened on that one. I like it.
My final hate here, and I wrote this down early, so I'm glad that it came to be what happened later in the book because it made sense. Once David and Anne had all of the information, they got it from Dr. Malik, they found all that stuff, and then additionally, you know, including the tax information, they had basically everything. They had this whole conspiracy dead to rights in paper. Why don't you just make copies of all of that information and mail it to all of the biggest news organizations?
Yeah.
They eventually did do that. He picked one and did that, so it made sense. But for a while, they were like, what are we going to do here? Like, how do we handle this information?
I mean, the Epstein stuff, they just were like, we're not covering that. It's like, wait, what? We have all this information. Like, no, we're not doing it. They're not just report on it just because it's the right thing to do. They'll protect their interests.
Yeah, maybe I've just watched that Watergate movie too recently. What's that one with Dustin Hoffman?
I haven't seen that, but go on.
Oh, God. It's Deep Throat. Oh, it's great. Shoot. Why is it All the President's Men? Is that what it's called? I think it's called All the President's Men.
I don't know what you're watching.
You know, I just think that there's reporters out there that aren't necessarily doing it for the...
Him picking someone out and being like, this guy will do it, that was the move, I think. That was the right move.
Yeah. I also didn't know how he knew all these reporters in Richmond that were so into their own ego, but good for David. You know, he's a good business development guy. He knows where to go to, when to go to them.
Yeah, he must know that that guy ruffles feathers, so made sense.
Did you want to cast anyone? I know Jay Lee said a couple of names there, including Leo, which we love. But did you want to cast anyone?
I had a few casted, but I mean, I think Leo would be great as David. I'll roll through mine real quick. Anne was Halle Berry, a little older woman that's still got it.
Oh, yeah. Anne gets a short shrift a couple of times. I mean, when she dyes her hair red, David's like, oh, yeah, she's like Julia Roberts in Pretty Woman, but older. It's like, well, yikes. Like, okay, chill out. And then when she meets Byron the first time or whatever, she's like, oh, you must be Anne. You look a lot older in person. It's like, yikes with this lady's age. Like, chill out, guys.
Yeah, that was.
I felt like Anne still had it.
So did David. So
yeah, evidently she can't surf for shit. But so Halle Berry, I like that for Anne. Who else you got?
Marcus, you mentioned him earlier. Armie Hammer, a little skinnier version, but he's a psychopath.
Canceled.
Yeah, well, that's why we bring him back for this. And then this is the most obvious casting. And hopefully you picked up on it. But Dr. Malik, Dennis Hopper.
Oh, dead.
Is he?
I'm pretty sure Dennis Hopper's dead.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Well, do you know why I casted him?
Why?
Dr. Malik had the gun pointed at him at one point. And he kept on saying "hot shot."
Oh, speed, little speed
he
reference.
died in 2010. So now,
yeah.
All right,
way dead.
Well. Either way,
hey, it's 2023. Let's just CGI.
I like how you're like dead.
Yeah, CGI him in.
All right, Hotshot though. Hotshot lives on forever, kid. I don't care if he's passed away. R.I.P. I'll be respectful and like Dylan.
A Deadly Deal coming out September 12th. Jay Lee, author. Would you recommend this book out there to our listeners?
Yeah, we already touched on it multiple times, but
Yeah,
like I said, you want a thriller? You want a good summer read, even though I know summer's coming to the end here, pick it up. I already compared it a little bit. I think Da Vinci Code / like a Jack Reacher novel, but like a common man Jack Reacher. It's like kind of that vibes.
Yeah.
If you've ever read one of those. So I think that's right up your alley if you like those.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a 328 page book or something like that, 322 pages. It's the perfect number to me. Low 300s, perfect number. And especially because you sit down in a sitting, you read 50 pages, this is it's a six sitting book, which is perfect for me.
Yeah.
That's 6 beach trips.
Sure.
You sit there for an hour and you do it, or 6 sits in the backyard, whatever you like. So yeah, I thought it was definitely a super fun read. I'm amazed at all these people who can write books. Every time we talk to these people, I forget that they're like real people and not just names on the front of covers. And it blows me away that people are able to do that.
Yeah, this smart. Yeah, to actually do this.
Yeah, I can barely put 2 sentences together. Yeah, we loved it, and we were really excited to have Jay Lee on, and we hope it all goes well with the launch. So people out there, do your part, go buy the book, and let us know what you think, because we want to know. What do we got coming up next?
Next, we got Anxious People by FREDRIK BACKMAN. So yeah, it's already been made, I think, into a TV show. And then he also wrote The
Man Called Otto. Yeah, a listener recommended book. So we're excited to get into that, and we'll probably have that coming out to you like next week or so. So Anxious People coming up next, and we got a lot more in the line to close out the year. So it should be a fun one. Keith, as always, it's been a blast. Good luck with the rest of the Clemson football season, which is now technically over. And I love you. That's really all I have to say.
All right, D-Man.
All right. Thanks to Jay Lee. We appreciate it, and we'll catch you all next time. Bye now.
Bye now.